Marriage counselors of Reddit. What's the stupidest reason a couple has made an appointment? Couldn't decide on which chicken to buy for their chicken farm. Sounds like a Portlandia sketch, lol. Is it organic? His name was Colin. Have you met a leaky? Don't be a bitch, Nance. I had a woman come in for couples counseling. Over the phone she reported that her boyfriend with the same last name, very confusing, was distant and was refusing to listening. When the session started it was just her that showed up. She went on and on about how absent he was and how he refused to see the progress she had been making in her life. It turns out the boyfriend was an ex who had a restraining order against her and lived halfway across the country from her. She was delusional and was receiving treatment for her mental health issues. She just could not get her thinking away from him and legally changed her last name to his because it would mean they would be together. She figured couples counseling was the way to work on their relationship issues. Edit. Not sure this is the stupidest, but it is definitely the most bizarre reason I have had someone make an appointment. Oh my lord. A lot of couples schedule counseling for legitimate reasons like communication issues, but then it will come out that the real reason is something stupid and they don't even realize it. I had a couple married 25 years who were struggling to connect, and it turned out they were resentful of each other because they both wanted to spend various holidays with their families of origin. Never talked about it. Never mentioned it. Just both simmered in silent resentment for 25 years. It was resolved so quickly once it was unearthed. Another couple came in for parenting challenges. Told me very casually they hadn't had sex since their youngest was conceived. How old is your youngest? 13. Both were acting like it was completely normal and fine and unrelated. Turned out it was not normal and not fine and definitely related. Referred for sex therapy and heard the whole family happily graduated from therapy within months. The entire family was seeking therapy with different counselors for different reasons, or so they thought. No, they were not doing family sex therapy. I can't believe I just typed family sex therapy. Never talked about it. Never mentioned it. Just both simmered in silent resentment for 25 years. Well, that's not communication issues. They got into a domestic because he wouldn't try her jam. We really need a context here though. I had a BF who gaslighted and psychologically tortured me for years. I remember how he never appreciated anything I did and I was never enough. One day I made a special bread for him which took me a whole day to make. He never tasted it. He said, "I'm sure it's shit." That was the last straw. Somehow I found the strength to leave him after that. But you can also look at our last moment and say she left him BC he didn't taste her bread. Nicely put. My uncle and his wife. Reasoning. She lost a frying pan. I mean, I get that it's a stupid argument. But how the fuck do you lose a frying pan? Cupboard, hob, next to sink, into sink to soak, next to sink because other things need washing. Angry wife puts all the washing in the garden out of spite because husband never does the fucking washing up and the kitchen is a fucking mess. Raccoon steals frying pan. Met. I managed to put a pair of boots through the washer and dryer 2 fucking weeks, 2 damn weeks. But this is the same guy that sunk a stationary speedboat and survived 9/11, so fuck yeah, this dude goes to a marriage counselor because MS. Wifey misplaced a pen in. My ex made an appointment for us when he got his side girl pregnant. I was 26 and in grad school. Lonely. Stressed. And horribly gaslit. And went along. At the time the therapist would say if he hasn't changed by now he's not going to. Usually I'm trying to keep people together but I'm not sure I can now and I would get mad. Now I look back and things, come on girl. Run. I needed to hear this. It seems impossible to leave, but equally impossible to stay. I'm slowly destroying myself. Leave. I slept in my car for a few nights and friends thankfully took me in before I could finish the last few months of school. My ex was controlling and scary and borderline abusive. I sometimes wonder how awful it would be to be going through COVID with him. Since I'm pretty well quarantined. That thought is awful. I have the most phenomenal fiancé now. Has the most supportive, kind, laid-back spirit. I really couldn't do better. To think of when I was crying myself to sleep in my car that I would end up here. Whatever you have to do, it's worth it. I work with a lot of kids, and I see far more stupid reasons that couples have not scheduled an appointment. Parents spill their guts while explaining what's wrong with their children. And 90% of the time it's the parents' marriage causing issues with the child/family. This is totally not a catch-all statement because many children have true behavioral/emotional challenges separate from their parents' marriage. But at the same time, if you feel like your child is struggling and you have tried everything, maybe try marriage counseling. Oh, this is so true. LCSW here. Worked with kiddos and families for a good chunk of my career. And 95% of the time, if the kid is having issues, there's a parenting issue or a marriage/partner problem. Why are there so many terrible parents out there? Why are there so many parents who don't know how to parent? It's a cycle. Children are raised by parents who do not know how to parent or are unable to parent. These children then go into to raise a family of their own. Intergenerational trauma is very real. It can be broken but is a tough endeavor. This is why my wife and I decided to not have kids. Both of our families have long histories of trauma and substance abuse. I myself have been sober for 20 years after spending about 8 years badly strung out in my 20s. We are near 50 and are in a far healthier place than the first half of our lives, but even still we just didn't want to continue the curse. Get a couple of doggos and be nice to them. 2 happy cats and they live like kings. I had a pimp and one of his sex workers come to see me because they were having jealousy issues. They were legally married and he was unhappy with how she couldn't leave work at work. Best couple ever. What does that mean? Does she call her clients in her downtime or talk about work with her husband? That has so many layers of dysfunction. I'm intrigued. I want stories. Not a counselor, but my friend is one. And a couple came to her unofficially because the wife wouldn't tell her hubby when her mom was coming over because she knew he'd be sick or out that day. Who was the monster? Husband or Mill? Not me, but my buddy's wife demanded counseling after he refused to fix his habit of leaving the seat up. Apparently the straw that broke the camel's back was he didn't realize his POO came back up and she fell into the toilet on his old waterlogged shit. Poseidon's embrace. I would have gone with the Krippen or something. But that's just me. I'm a clinical therapist and had a client bring in their spouse for a session. They both have sporadically treated bipolar disorder. I can only assume what a wild ride their kids are on. Poor kids. It's always the dishes. I don't see couples anymore because I cannot have one more conversation with adult human beings about the various philosophies of dishwashing. As a younger person, I want to say that the game is rigged. We've learned from our parents. Don't rush into marriage. Test out sexual compatibility. Check and check. But do you know how long it takes to establish dishwashing compatibility? Vaccinate their child. Dad say go. Mom says no. Go. Dad. Go. See Dad go. It was so sad when they hopped on Pop. He insists Jar Jar is a Sith Lord and she just doesn't care. I have never wanted a story to be true as much as I want to believe this. I'm choosing to believe it. I need this. I'm a counselor with teenagers and kids. A school staff member dragged these two teens into my office one day. A boy and a girl. Both were clearly upset but definitely didn't want to talk about it with me. You could have cut the tension with a knife as they sat frozen in their chairs staring at the floor. I saw them and thought, oh fuck. She's pregnant. I'm trying not to panic at how to handle the situation as I finally get them talking, and it turns out they were just fighting because he sent a text to some girl. A text. At least she wasn't pregnant. There was a case in marriage laws in India where the husband complained to his wife that the food didn't have enough salt. The wife asked him to get the salt himself. The husband said, if I have to do everything, why are you here? Go somewhere else and die. The next day his wife killed herself. The family of his wife came to complain, but he asked them to go somewhere else and die. They sued him for abatement of suicide. But his lawyer pleaded that he asked the in-laws to die as well. But they didn't. The wife did, but it cannot be abatement. Court declared him not guilty and set a precedent that abuses and words said in passion are not abatement. That's so awful. Poor wife. And OMG, screw that guy. Not a cow seller, but sat in a bathroom for hours waiting for a guy and his GF to stop violently fighting about me being there behind her back apparently. Don't believe he says, folks. I know this has a lot of upvotes, but I'm struggling to understand the comment. I just woke up from a nap, so maybe my reading hasn't kicked in yet. Can someone please explain it to me in small and numerous words? Stupid selfish answer coming from a child who grew up with this. My mother scheduled an intervention. She and my sister and I met with a counselor and talked about all the things my dad did wrong. I would comment things that basically said I don't think that's the problem and would be constantly shut down. We had the intervention. And my dad got sober for a while. Turns out, my mother is just an absolutely miserable child of a woman. When I lived with her, I saw glimpses of it. She broke a plate once, and when I asked why, she said because I felt like it. Then when I started crying and picking up the pieces, she just drunkenly stumbled past me and went to bed. I think I was 12. She was 36 when I was born. When we went to pick my dad up from rehab, there was a group thing where they went around the room. Everyone would say something about their partner that they were there to pick up that they loved. My mother said she couldn't think of anything. My dad told me later in life that that was the moment he knew it was over. Turns out, they only got married in the first place because my mother's parents didn't want them living together before marriage. Scotch-Irish Catholics. Go figure. After years of dealing with a childish, emotionally stunted, generally shitty, stopped trying. Then she played the victim. Same as her mother. And which she continues to do to this day. She lies about being happy while being heavily medicated. I reach out to her to meet my girlfriend of at the time 7 years, now 8. Bless her. And she somehow manages to make our schedule around the wedding we're there for, just making things difficult for her, and cancels. Telling me more or less, if you can't meet my exact criteria, fuck you, I'm not even going to try. It's always something. I basically told her that's on her. And if you want to be a part of my life, you need to make an effort. I went no contact a few months back, and it's better for my mental health. I had this couple in my office that was struggling with the fact that their dog would constantly piss in the bed. The husband was ready to boot the dog out, but the wife absolutely would not let that happen. They got the dog from a pretty reputable breeder. So the option of returning the dog was also there if they needed it. The husband doubted that, though. He said the breeder was some sort of creep that tries to hit on women when they go to buy dogs from him. The wife denied this. But the husband continued. The breeder tried to set up a date with the wife when she got the dog. He asked her if she wanted to go to this well-known Mexican restaurant in the town. The owner of the restaurant was kind of a prick, though. He would always skimp out on the chips and salsa, and would charge you if you asked for another basket. He also berated the busiers and waitresses in front of customers. Fuck that guy. Username checks out.